The National Desk, America's News Now.
I can't go along with putting one of the most moderate members of the entire Republican conference in the Speaker's chair. That betrays the conservative values that I came here to fight for.
The Republicans' third Speaker nominee suffers the same fate as the last two. Where does the party go from here? And then calls for a ceasefire in the Middle East go unheeded, even as the humanitarian crisis in Gaza grows by the hour.
A ceasefire right now really only benefits Hamas.
And more details emerge into how and why a pilot in the cockpit tried to bring down an airplane. Just ahead, what the passengers thought about the ordeal. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. Breaking news right now. The search for a new Speaker nominee is on again. The latest presumptive Republican nominee, current Republican whip Tom Emmer, has dropped his bid to become Speaker. Tom Emmer won a secret ballot this morning that went 3 hours and multiple rounds against several other potential candidates. But like Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan before him, he couldn't unite the entire party to support his bid. In the final open roll call vote this afternoon, after winning the nomination, 26 members opposed Emmer for Speaker. Republicans can only afford to lose 4 votes. He didn't get any help from Donald Trump, who openly opposed his nomination on Truth Social, writing that a vote for Tom Emmer would be a, quote, tragic mistake. Right now, Republicans are conferring about how to move forward, but the frustration among the caucus members is boiling over as no member seems to have the support needed to reopen the House.
You know, if you hear people defending this process is going to bring out a new speaker and make us work better, and I just shows that we're not functioning as a majority.
Everybody's frustrated. I think that's a general consensus around the country, us included.
Spent some time in the district talking to neighbors. They're as frustrated as we are. I mean, they're angry, and I'm angry.
Meantime, in the Middle East, a little prospect of a ceasefire anytime soon in the bloodiest episode in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict we've seen in decades. A death toll in Gaza now quickly approaching that 6,000 mark. The health ministry run by Hamas saying 700 Palestinians were killed overnight alone, the highest 24-hour death toll seen since Israel began a bombing campaign against Hamas on October 7th. Right now, the death toll of Palestinians reported at 5,791. In Israel, the death toll there remaining at 1,400, the result of Hamas's initial attack on the country. The surge in casualties causing the plea for humanitarian aid to intensify. Gazans right now in desperate need of fuel, which Israel has blocked over concerns that it will be taken by Hamas. However, the UN raising alarm tonight, warning that more civilians will suffer.
That would be another disaster. Without fuel, aid cannot be delivered, hospitals will not have power, and drinking water cannot be purified or even pumped.
The UN Secretary General also calling for more aid in general, saying what has gone in so far is, quote, a drop in the ocean compared to what's needed. For perspective, since trucks were cleared for entry over the weekend, 54 have been allowed in, a tiny fraction of what you'd expect. Gaza now more than 7,200 truckloads short of aid, including food, water, and medical supplies that would normally be imported right now if no war were underway. Meantime, tonight, a released Israeli hostage speaking out for the first time, sharing her experience kidnapped by Hamas militants for more than 2 weeks. The daughter of 85-year-old Yocheved Lifshitz translating on her behalf, sharing that many of the hostages were being stored in one room and were getting some medical care.
And after 2 or 3 hours, those hostages, 5 of them, she among them, were taken into a separate room. My mom is saying that they were very friendly towards them.
Lifshitz was released yesterday with 79-year-old Nurit Cooper. Both of their husbands remain captive in Gaza, along with more than 200 additional hostages. And tonight, 5,000 more UAW auto workers off the job, this time hitting General Motors' biggest SUV assembly plant in Arlington, Texas. Between yesterday and today, nearly 12,000 union workers have joined the picket lines against the big three automakers, bringing the total to more than 45,000, nearly a third of all UAW members. But today's strike came after GM posted nearly a $3.1 billion profit for stockholders in the third quarter of 2023. While this is smaller than last year, Union President Shawn Fain used this news as the reason for today's strike, saying, quote, record profits equal record contracts. It's time GM workers get their fair share. Meantime, the Anderson Economic Group updated their economic assessment after 5 weeks since the beginning of the work disruptions and found that the economy has suffered roughly $9.3 billion in losses. This comes to about $2 billion a week, which is expected to grow with yesterday's and today's strike expansion. And this just in, ABC News reporting that Mark Meadows, who served as White House chief of staff under former President Trump, has testified before a federal grand jury in the DOJ's election interference case against Trump in an immunity deal. Meadows reportedly said Trump was, quote, dishonest with Americans when talking about the 2020 election. And another guilty plea in Georgia. Former Donald Trump lawyer Jenna Ellis, she is the latest to accept a deal with prosecutors and the fourth of 19 co-defendants to plead guilty to charges stemming from election fraud in Georgia.
If I knew then what I know now, I would have declined to represent Donald Trump in these post-election challenges. I look back on this whole experience with deep remorse.
And it is unknown what her plea means for Donald Trump specifically. Jenna Ellis did implicate former New York mayor and Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani as one of the guilty parties. During her testimony today, she swore that she aided and abetted making false statements alongside Giuliani to Georgia lawmakers at a hearing in 2020. Rudy Giuliani has pleaded not guilty and denies the accusations against him. Donald Trump, meantime, was back in a New York courtroom today as the civil trial of potential fraud by Trump and his associates continues. Former Trump attorney Michael Cohen took the stand today to testify that he assisted in manipulating the Trump Organization's financial documents to match what Donald Trump wanted them to be. He also said while he was convicted of lying to Congress, he did so because Trump asked him to. Speaking to reporters outside of the court, Cohen said his testimony wasn't because of a vendetta.
This is not about Donald Trump versus Michael Cohen or Michael Cohen versus Donald Trump. This is about accountability, plain and simple, and we leave it up to Judge Engoron in order to make all the determinations on that.
And Trump told reporters after the hearing that he wasn't concerned about Cohen's testimony, and he suggested Cohen is an unreliable witness, saying his record is, quote, a horrible one. The Los Angeles County District Attorney is investigating claims that local hotels are hiring illegal migrants and underage workers while current staff is on strike. More than 15,000 workers walked off the job in July. Hotels have been hiring non-union workers in the meantime to meet their labor demands. The allegations of illegal hirings have been made by a local union that is on strike. Meantime, the number of encounters at the southern border for September have been released, and we now have the totals for fiscal year 2023, which ended on September 30th. Both the month and the year broke new records for the largest number of migrant encounters at the southern border. As the National Desk's Christine Frizzell reports, among those coming, a substantial increase in those on the terror watch list.
New numbers paint a picture of a desperate situation growing dire. In September, more than 269,000 migrants encountered at the southern border, the most in a single month ever, in a year that saw nearly 2.5 million, also a record. These photos captured by those on the front lines illustrate the challenges faced by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, all while trying to adhere to its main mission, On CBP's website, our top priority is to keep terrorists and their weapons from entering the United States.
The last 34 months, we've had 1.6 million known gotaways. How many known terrorists or how many special interest aliens have entered the United States? To me, it's not a matter of if the threat gets here. I believe the threat's already here.
Indeed, those encountered at the southern border on the terror watch list skyrocketed to 172, up from 98 last year, 16 the year before, and just 3 in 2020.
The message from the Biden administration is there are no consequences to coming to the United States illegally. And unfortunately, because of the volume of migrants coming across the border, it's overwhelming the Border Patrol.
As part of a $105 billion aid package, the Biden administration has requested more than $13 billion for enhanced border security,
including state-of-the-art border surveillance technology and modernized ports of entry. We need Congress to give us the funds to implement these proven tools.
Okay, seems like we lost Christine there. Christine, thank you for that report in Washington, D.C. Well, Georgia's 6-week abortion ban remains in effect for now. The state's Supreme Court rejected a lower court's dismissal of the heartbeat law 6-1, citing the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling against Roe v. Wade last year. The Fulton County Superior Court had ruled the 2019 law unconstitutional because it was enacted before the Supreme Court ruled on the controversial Dobbs case last year. But the state's high court said today when the Supreme Court overrules its own precedents, they are obligated to support the new interpretation. And the man suspected of killing a Maryland judge, he is still on the run at this hour, and authorities do not believe he is still in the area where his car was found. Pedro Argate is believed to have shot Judge Andrew Wilkinson on Thursday night. Wilkinson presided over Argate's divorce case. The U.S. Marshals Service says Argate has connections to 4 other states. And tonight, TSA investigating after Washington State Senator Jeff Wilson boarded a flight to China with a gun in his carry-on bag. Wilson was arrested in Hong Kong on Friday after finding the weapon mid-flight and reporting it upon landing. He was released on Sunday after posting bail. Wilson said it was a, quote, honest mistake, and also blamed TSA for not catching it. A hearing is set for October 30th. And up next, what a new complaint has revealed about the pilot accused of trying to shut down the engines of a plane while in air. Then lawsuits against Meta are piling up, why most states are now taking legal action against the social media platform. Plus, the creative way students at one high school are raising awareness about breast cancer. We are back in just 90 seconds. As the war rages on abroad, anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, those incidents are on the rise. And with its diverse population, perhaps no place more evident of that than New York, where just this week a Muslim 16-year-old was attacked while riding the New York City subway, told by a man that she was a terrorist before he pulled her headscarf right off of her head. Muslim groups tracking a dramatic rise in these types of incidents. Meantime, the NYPD reports there have already been 35 anti-Jewish motivated attacks in the city just since October 8th. New York's governor speaking today about what she's doing in response.
I just launched a hotline for people to be able to call if they see such signs as you're described as inscribing Nazi symbols or even attacks on mosques. I want to make sure people of New York feel that there is an outlet, that they can reach out to their law enforcement allies, and we can put an end to this.
Stunning new details revealed today in the terrifying incident in which an off-duty pilot allegedly tried to shut down the engines of an aircraft mid-flight. A complaint filed today revealing Joseph David Emerson, who was en route to fly another plane on Sunday, had not slept for 40 hours and had discussed using psychedelic mushrooms. He's been formally charged now on a federal count of interfering with a flight crew, along with 83 counts of attempted murder on that Horizon Air flight from Washington State to California as he was riding the extra seat in the cockpit. It comes as we hear from passengers on that aircraft for the first time about what they heard and saw while in the air. The National Desk's Denise Whitaker joins us with their account.
Yeah, we want law enforcement as soon as we get on the ground and park.
Shortly after an Alaska Airlines flight operated by Horizon left Everett for San Francisco, it was diverted to Portland.
Didn't say where, didn't say when, didn't say why.
Paul Stephen tells me he did not learn until this morning what actually happened.
We've got the guy that tried to shut the engines down out of the cockpit.
Stephen, sitting in row 3, tells me he didn't know what he was really watching.
The cockpit door opened and someone walked out on their own and went to the back of the plane.
Aubrey Gavella, sitting further back in the plane, said she could hear a flight attendant trying to calm that man down.
And at that point, we had thought it was a medical situation, which was confusing because he was cuffed.
Safely on the ground in Portland, police officers escorted Joseph Emerson off the aircraft.
He was a little dead in the eyes. He was it seemed to be in shock. They searched his bag, they put him in the truck, and we kind of had no idea what was going on.
It was definitely scary seeing him walk out with that lanyard. It's not just some crazy person off the street. Like, that's a trusted person at the airline.
So who is this 44-year-old pilot who lives in Pleasant Hills, California?
Nothing abnormal about him. He's very caring, loves his kids.
So just who can have access to sit in that jump seat in a cockpit? FAA regulations say only a government official on duty or another pilot. And Alaska Airlines also tells me that their pilots have the right to refuse access to anyone other than a government official. In Everett, Denise Whitaker.
Almost all of West Maui is getting ready to reopen. Mayor Richard Bisson said that on November 1st, everywhere except burned out sections of Lahaina that, of course, burned down after the August 8th wildfires will be available to tourists. Hawaii Governor Josh Green ended the state of emergency on October 8th, but Mayor Bisson amended that declaration to allow for a phased reopening. Mayor Bisson acknowledging this is a voluntary reopening and workers who need more time can take it. Today, President Biden awarded the nation's highest honors for advancing science and technology. More than 20 honorees received the National Medal of Science and the National Medal of Technology and Innovation Awards. The medals are given to people who are making significant contributions to the nation's standard of living and competitiveness through technological innovation. The Environmental Protection Agency now proposing a ban on the cancer-causing chemical trichloroethylene known as TCE. It's found in products like cleaning solutions and adhesives. Now, exposure can cause serious health risks, including kidney cancer. The EPA proposal would ban most uses within 1 year. The American Chemistry Council argues that this proposal is not based on the best available science. 33 states joined a federal lawsuit filed in California claiming Meta routinely collects data on children under the age of 13 without their parents' consent, which violates federal law. 9 other attorneys general have separately filed lawsuits in their respective states, accusing the company of designing social media platforms that get children addicted and harm their mental health. The National Desk's Janae Bowens explains about how it all happened.
It becomes a drug dealer. We just don't go out and meet the drug dealer on the street and say, here are my kids, what do you got for them?
Mental health expert with JustAnswer.com, Jennifer Kelman, says she doesn't allow her 14-year-old twins to go on social media because she doesn't want them to get addicted.
I get pushback from my kids, but it's just the way it's going to be, for a little bit longer. We can't unsee things that we've already seen, so it's my job to protect that for as long as I can.
Jennifer supports the new lawsuits against Meta, the parent company of Instagram and Facebook.
Social media is fueling a national youth mental health crisis. Children, and in particular young girls, are struggling with record levels of depression and anxiety.
New York Attorney General Letitia James is just one of the 42 state attorney generals suing Meta over alleged harm to young people.
Harmful features designed to ensure children spend more time on their platforms, compare themselves to their peers, and receive constant notifications, making them lose sleep and struggle to pay attention in school.
These issues are things Jennifer has witnessed firsthand.
This has been a personal crusade of mine and also something that I've been seeing on Just Answer for a very long time in terms of parents reaching out, really not knowing what to do with their kids being addicted to social media, scrolling all day, all night, not having social interactions, and really losing a piece of themselves to social media.
Now, according to the Associated Press, Meta said that they were disappointed that the attorneys general have chosen this path. The tech giant says they wanted to work together to create clear, age-appropriate standards for teens. In Washington, I'm Janae Bowens.
Janae, thank you. Coming up, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. What students at a West Virginia high school are doing to help. We'll be right back. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We are taking the pulse of America.
Cameron High School students showed their support for breast cancer patients as they made homemade mastectomy pillows to give to the WVU Medicine Breast Center.
We had a student here, her mother had breast cancer, so we looked up ideas that we could do for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and they came up with the mastectomy pillows.
Through the school's applied design and fashion class, students sewed about 25 pillows for breast cancer patients who have had their breasts removed and need an extra cushion under their arm or between a seatbelt.
The community helping others is what it's all about. The support that you get from these pillows and from little events that go to local organizations like ourselves, that's where it's all about.
Because breast cancer is more common than you think.
One thing that we forget is it can happen to anyone. It is not necessarily heritage linked.
5 years ago, Major Tommy Bradford's life was changed forever. Then Deputy Bradford responded to a stolen truck chase heading through Dade County, Georgia from Alabama, working to set up a roadblock when the suspect hit him. Sadly, due to his injuries, he lost his left leg. In the months that followed the incident, Bradford was fitted for a prosthetic leg and had to undergo physical therapy to regain his full mobility. The transformative experience left him questioning whether or not he would return to his profession.
At the time, I thought I'd made up my mind that I was done, with law enforcement.
But the outpouring of support from the community and family enveloped Bradford, and it led to new perspectives. He made his return to the office a year and a half later, and now holds the rank of major, overseeing officers and the budget.
The water is so low at Millerton Lake that boats are sitting in the mud. It's quite a long stroll down the docks before you reach the water. Back in mid-July, water was streaming over the dam. So where did all the water go? The Bureau of Reclamation says it streamed into two major canals, the Madera and Friant Kern.
We've been preparing for this since June because we know the contractors wanted to get as much water out of the reservoir as they could for the subsidence project.
Jackson says in November, water will stop flowing down the Friant Kern so the repair project can get underway. Jackson says reducing the water level was no secret.
We talked to the state parks who operates responsible for the marina, so they're included in our forecast.
Well, coming up, the Hollywood actors have now been on strike for more than 100 days. The impact it's had on California's economy. We will be right back. Well, the Hollywood Actors Union and the studios, they are negotiating once again. The two sides, they resumed talks today after a nearly 2-week pause. The Writers Guild of America ratified its new contract earlier this month, but many productions are still on hold because of the ongoing actor strike, which began in July. The strikes have cost California around $5 billion, and we are all hoping it comes to an end very soon. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. We do invite you to join us again this evening for more coverage of America's top stories. Just check your local listings. I'm Amira David. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful night.